All right. Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are all having a great day. It'd be helpful if I was actually on camera. There we go. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Patrick. I run the marketing department here at Art Storefronts, and I've been doing that for years and years and years now. So let's get into the agenda for today's session. Somehow you guys have got drawn into the Art Storefronts ecosystem. Maybe you saw a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or an email or something or other, and you're likely wondering, who are these people? Why do they email so much? Do they know what they're talking about? Do I know, like, and trust them enough to potentially do business with them? Can they help my art career out? You've got those types of questions. And so we like running sessions like these where we just kind of teach and get to know you a little bit and let you know what we think and kind of what we advise is business. And so that will be the session today. This particular time of year is especially important because Q4 is coming, last 3 months of the year, the fourth quarter, the holiday buying season. It has a number of different names, but for artists and photographers attempting to sell their work, there is no better time of the year. We've got about 10 years worth of data, and every single solitary year, the last 3 months of the year, more art and photography is sold than just about any other time. So it's a great time to be an active artist, an active photographer attempting to sell your work. So the initial plan today is to talk about Q4, the importance of Q4, what to focus on. And then after that short session, we will get into the Q&A where you can ask any question you have about anything. And I'd love to answer it. And, you've invested the time to come and see this session today. It's very important for me. Whether you ever decide to do business with Art Storefronts or not, that you leave with some value, that you leave with some things, some ideas, some concepts that you can potentially bolt into your business as soon as today to get things going and to start taking some forward steps in your art career. So that's the agenda. I'll say I'm going to play a video that I recorded on one of these sessions a couple of weeks ago that's a really good introduction to Q4 and what you need to focus on. As things are rolling along, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom window, there's a little like chat icon thing. And if you click that, you can throw messages in there as it's rolling along. If you've got a question about something or something's top of mind, or you have a question that you want to, we can deal with when we get into the Q&A section, or I can answer it in real time. So all of that will be going on as well. And then, we'll just take it from there. And then I'll have some other stuff that I want to rant on after the video plays. So that is the ball game. That is the agenda for today. I think you guys will really like this video. It's good. I'm proud of it. So I will get this thing queued up, and then I will see you guys afterwards for the Q&A. All right. That you guys are all here, and despite the small group today, I will change absolutely nothing with the presentation. I will just get to pour more energy into you guys, your comments, your questions, your concerns. I call this thing the Q4 boot camp because Q4 is coming, but I want to rant about something else because it's top of mind and it's important to me. And it's not Instagram, but we'll talk about that in a second too. Let me get off that so it's not distracting. So I should say I've been at this business for 8 years, and it was in the art industry before that. And I've been running sessions like this essentially like 3 days a week since right around the time the pandemic started. So it's got to be 50,000 artists and photographers now over the course of that entire time. We have a little bit over 10,000 customers at Art Storefronts. I get to see all their data, not only on who's selling what prices, this, that, and the other, but also like where did their traffic come from that actually led to these sales. What I've come to realize in all of that is there's only three viable ways to make it today as an artist, photographer who wants to sell their creations. Only three. And let's talk about the three. And to give it some teeth, let's just say a successful art business. I know everyone's definition of that is a little bit different, right? But for the sake of argument, let's just say a successful art business is an art business in which you have gross sales of $100,000 a year, right? Sounds like a lofty number, fine, but let's just say that. So, okay, there's only three ways to get there. Number one way, the way that everyone on this call would prefer to do, get into a gallery where all you have to do is create and they do everything else. That sounds awesome, right? Okay, let's work those numbers through. You're in a gallery, and you're doing $100,000 a year in gross sales. The gallery takes 50%. So that means at the end of the day, you get $50,000 back. And because it's gross sales, then you have to subtract your studio, your materials, your trips, your tripods, your lenses, all of that, and maybe you're left with $35,000. Hardly a living wage. Let's make that picture a little bit rosier. And by the way, the number of artists that are in that situation that are selling $100,000 a year in a gallery is probably less than 1 or 2% of the total artists and photographers that are out there trying to sell their art in photography. Let's make that picture a little bit rosier, and let's say $300,000. Okay, let's triple it in gross sales a year in a gallery. And with the aforementioned 50% haircut, 150, okay, you're making 100 grand a year. That's fantastic. That's less than 1%, probably less than 0.2% of artists and photographers out there. So in terms of like a viable path forward, the way that I like to explain making it in a gallery is to have that level of success that way as an artist or photographer is kind of like playing a sport versus being a professional athlete. How many people do you know play a sport? How many professional athletes do you know, right? Like the odds are just not fantastic. And the real death knell to the gallery model is you guys are all going to be artists and photographers for the rest of your life. I routinely get people on these calls in their 90s still trying to sell their art, which is amazing. And you realize it's the long game. Wherever you are, you have a ton of time left, right, to do this, God willing, of course. If you don't know who's purchasing your art and you can't market to them for the rest of your life, you don't have the ability to develop collectors. Collectors are folks that'll come back and keep buying from you again and again and again, year after year after year. And it's the lifeblood of any art business. In the gallery model, you don't know because the gallery doesn't tell you who purchases. It's important to state that, important to understand that. All right, let's table the gallery model for a sec. Next is to become a road warrior. A road warrior is someone that does anywhere from 25 to 45 shows a year. The fairs, the shows, the farmers markets, the thises, the that's, and you are loading that car up, setting up the booth. Sometimes it's a dud, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's inclement weather. You're away from your family, you're 8 hours a day on your feet. It is not easy, it's hard. That being said, totally viable path to get there. If I was an artist myself and I was like looking back at my life and I wanted to give my like 20-year-old self some advice, okay, Emma, talking to you, you're the young one here, it would be like, don't have a wife, don't have a significant other, don't have kids, don't have a mortgage. And if you have any of those things, it's just a generalization. You're the young one and I'm looking at you. So go and do that when you're young. Because if you can do that when you're young, when you don't have the aforementioned significant other and kids and soccer games on Saturdays and a mortgage, that's when you're the freest to be able to do that. And it's totally a viable path. Like I've got multiple customers that are in their 50s and 60s that did it for years and years and years. One guy I think of, this guy, Bill Stidham, 175,000 miles on his van in 6 years that he just used for his art shows. I mean, he hit it hard. You know what that guy has now? Healthy 6-figure-a-year business, and he barely does any shows anymore because he built up a list, he built up a customer base, he built up collectors. The third way, okay, is what everybody really, truly has to do. It's what you want to do, which is, I know I'm not going to get into a gallery. I know I'm not doing the show and fair circuit. That's just too much. I can't be that road warrior. So I want to sell direct. I want to understand who's purchasing my work. And it's totally a viable path. It's what we advocate. Here's the rub, though. You have to market your own art. You have to market your own art. There is no one that is going to market it for you. And for some people, that is a painful thing to hear. For most artists and photographers, it's a painful thing to hear, but it's true. Anyone that's been in this business for any period of time knows that you guys are all sold a bill of goods that somehow an artist or a photographer's vocation is just to create this amazing thing and everything else just happens, and nothing could be further from the truth. You have to get good and understand that marketing yourself is just as important a job as creating what you create. And the sooner you come to terms with that, the way better your life becomes. Why? Because there's never been a better time in the history of the world to do it. Not even close. I mean, for those of us that are older and remember the days before these things existed and before social networks with hundreds of millions of people worldwide were on their phones all day long, do you know how hard it was? Do you know how much harder it was? You were geographically fixed on the planet somewhere, and that's where you started, and that's what you had. You had to grind way harder. Now, if you take your marketing vocation seriously, if you're like, I'm going to get good at this, if you realize that your art business is essentially 2 trains on 2 tracks. Train number 1, your art, your craft, your creations, your subject matter material, your brush, your lens, how good you get with all of that. That train has its own path, and it will go throughout the rest of your career. You want to get better at it. You want to make sure that train has no brakes. The other one is how good you get at marketing yourself. And you need to treat it seriously, and you need to turn it into an art form. And if you understand those 2 things, that is the path that artists and photographers get on, will become successful, will have a business that is growing year after year after year. And I really firmly do believe there's never been a better time in the history of the world to do that. But it's actually simple. Simple, not easy. Not easy in the fact that you guys have to get good at marketing. Not good that you have to take it seriously. Not good that you have to learn how to do this. And nobody likes doing it. I totally get that, okay? I mean, I run the marketing department here. Truth be told, I don't even like doing it, okay? Posting on socials on a regular basis, content marketing, right? Running sales, all the things that you have to do. But I don't know what the alternative is. I don't know what the alternative is. Because of all the tens of thousands of artists and photographers that have come through these Zoom sessions in the last 3 years, there are maybe one or two that were doing great in the gallery. And I saw specifically, like right when COVID hit and all those gallery people got closed up, those people were flooding into these Zooms going, what do I do? I've got nothing. My income's done, right? It was terrifying. The road warriors are the road warriors. And then there's nothing else. You know, there's nothing else. Like, I've had like 6 people tell me they make more $10,000 a year on Saatchi, Fine Art America, Redbubble. I've had a couple of people on Etsy that are doing like $20,000 or $30,000 a year, but I haven't heard anyone else. So when you realize those odds, and please don't take it cynically, like this is only going to happen for you if you sign up at Art Storefronts. I don't care where you sign up or what you do, but I do care that if you want to take this business seriously and you want to see it growing year after year, it's the 2 trains, 2 tracks, no brakes. 2 trains, 2 tracks, no brakes. Okay. Now that rant is over with, I called this thing a Q4 boot camp, and I love the marathon analogy, all right? I hate running. I will never sign up for a marathon in my life. But I know some people that have, and there's one thing that you notice about those people that sign up for the marathon. As soon as you fill out that form for that miserable activity, your whole life changes. Why? You know the pain is coming. You start eating a little bit better. You start training and taking your exercising more seriously. You start getting better sleep. If it's me, you work on that drinking habit that you have, right? All of these things in your life, you start taking more seriously. And my contention, having been in this business for close to 10 years now, and having seen what goes on in Q4 the last 3 months of the year, it's a marathon that you're signed up for whether you know it or not. And the training that you do between now and then, between the fourth quarter, the buying season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the roll up to Christmas, all of those sales that are in the water, all throughout that. More art, more photography is sold in the fourth quarter than the other 3 quarters combined almost sometimes. Like our customers that do it well have a good year based on what that fourth quarter is. And so my contention is that you're signed up for that marathon whether you know it or not. And the question is, what are you going to start doing between now and then? What are you going to start doing between now and then to get ready? Because if it's wait until things start getting colder, kids are back at school, you're running around like a crazy person, next thing you know, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, I gotta have a sale. And then you post something on Facebook and send an email to 6 people. Not gonna be good, right? So we need to start training now, right? We need to start getting our businesses in order now. And there's a number of different ways that you can approach that and that you can contemplate it. But step 1 in all of it is have it in the back of your head. It's coming. What you do between now and then is going to dictate the level of success that you have, and it is the most important time of the year to be selling. Without question, not even close. And you have to have your art up on the website. You have to start working on an email list. You have to start marketing regularly and consistently on the social media platforms. If you do that now, you're gonna wake up come October and you're gonna be like, oh, got a little momentum in my back. Things actually look pretty good here. People actually know who I am, and I have the ability to market and run some sales when Black Friday and Cyber Monday comes along. So very, very important to understand that happens every single solitary year. Every year it is absolutely fantastic in terms of sales, in terms of art and photography. So all very, very important. Pricing is another big one. And pricing is one of my favorite topics in this business period, right? And do you know what I love more than anything else? All the bullshit advice that's out there based on pricing. Here's the formula that you use for pricing. It's material cost times square inch times media time times your time. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for that. Magic, really. The only thing that matters is whether or not the art sells. There is no magical formula that's going to help you price your art if the art doesn't sell, which is why all of those formulas are nonsense. Pricing is quite simply this. And it's awesome and it's freeing. And once you do it, and once you realize this lesson, and I have like a really in-depth article on this and I'm going to send it to all of you. You, Creative Times, need to have prices from 0 to 100. You need to have prices from 100 to 1,000. you need to have prices over 1,000, and you need to have one thing in the shop that is obscenely expensive. Okay? Now let me break that all down with some real numbers. The 0 to 100 is really, really easy, especially if you're reproducing your artwork in terms of prints. But you also have to have non-wall art as a part of your lineup. Okay? It can't just be wall art. And the reason is that not everybody is ready to buy wall art all the time. And so you're out there, you're doing your marketing, you're getting your art, your photography in front of people, and they're like, wow, I really like this person. I really like their creativity. Problem, I'm not in the market for art right now. I want to reward this person for their talent, but I'm not in the market for art right now. If only they had something that was non-wall art related. Oh, they don't. Tell you what, I'll make a mental note to come back here. I'm going to go watch some cat videos, and you know what the masks do there, right? They're not coming back. They're never coming back. So the importance of having the non-wall art is so critical. No one talks about this enough. A business, specifically your guys' businesses, can be judged how well they are growing on one metric and one metric alone: the number of new customers you are acquiring per year. The number of new customers you are acquiring per year. Why? Why? Because the easiest customer to get is the one that you already have. It is significantly easier to get somebody to come back and purchase a second time than it is to go out and find a new person and have them purchase for the first time. And this is just a fundamental rule of most businesses, but specifically this business. And I alluded earlier to how important it is to not sell in galleries so that you know who is purchasing your work. There is a phenomenon in here. I stole it from this guy, so I always give him credit. Hold on, I'm going to grab his book. I stole this from Weiland, okay? Weiland is the whale guy. Most would say the best-selling artist in the United States. By the way, this book, fire! Okay? Insane. Amazing. You need to go buy it. Honestly, I should be on commission for this. In fact, he's got a gallery close to where I live. I'm going to go in there and get it. Short, sweet, no fluff. I'm sorry, here it is. But the rub is it's not on Amazon. I think he donates 100% of the proceeds to charity, so you have to buy it from his website. But honestly, Google this book and buy this book. Weiland defines a collector as someone that will purchase in upwards of 7+ pieces of art from him over the course of a lifetime. And this is a phenomenon I see played out continually with my own customer base. But when you have collectors, it's a phenomenon of this business, right? Like there's certain product categories that have collectors, right? If you ask my 7-year-old kid, it's those damn Pokemon cards. They're all over my floor right now. You guys would laugh if you saw these. But shoes, cars, wristwatches, art is one of them. And it's a fantastic thing because you will keep creating throughout the course of your life. And these collectors will just go along for the ride. You keep raising prices, they keep coming and buying and buying and buying. Oh, that's awesome. Emma just said that book is on Spotify for free. I did not know that. Definitely listen to it. You want to highlight it, though. I'm not kidding. Great book. Where was I going with all that? So if we know the most important thing an art business can have is a collector, and then we know in order for a collector to become a collector, they first have to purchase something, that underscores how important it is to have non-wall art as a part of the lineup, okay? That's the 0 to 100 range. Also in there, you obviously have small prints. And then let's say you're 100 to 1,000, you get into some bigger size prints, right? Your metals, your canvas, your acrylic, you go through that 0 to 1,000 range, and maybe close to the 1,000 range, you're in limited editions, and then above that, you have your originals. Everyone has to adjust it a little bit to taste. But you also need something obscenely expensive in the store. And let's say that you sell your originals, just to keep the math simple, at like $1,000. I want one in there for 10 grand. And why? Why one in there for 10 grand? That's crazy. I'm never going to sell that thing. I don't even care if you don't ever sell that thing. You ever been to a car dealership? And you know, in the car dealership, that the big glass box in the middle, I know the car dealership is a miserable feeling in most people's heads because you have to deal with the salespeople. But anyway, the big glass box in the middle, right? Let's say we're at the Toyota dealership. In that big glass box in the middle is the Toyota Supra carbon fiber TRD whatever. It's $275,000, right? There's a reason that they put those cars inside the glass box, and it's because human beings are wired to make purchase decisions based on comparison. We anchor onto certain things to compare to other certain things. And so when we go and look at that $250,000 Supra or the $150,000 Land Cruiser that's inside the glass box, we anchor onto that price point, and it makes us feel just that much better about buying the $60,000 Highlander, right? That's on the outside. And that's a phenomenon called price anchoring. And It's just one of these psychological things that's really, really, really important to do. You feel better knowing that I didn't buy the most expensive thing. It makes you feel a little bit better. That's why you put that high-priced item in there. Also, everyone's followers, yours, mine, any business, that all fall into a thing that I call the socioeconomic bell curve, okay? It's your typical bell curve, exactly what you'd expect. And down at the low end of it, you have the low socioeconomic status. Those people can't afford anything. They'll like, comment, and share on your post. They're still good people. Then you have lower income folks, middle class, upper middle class, high net worth individuals, the bell curve, right? You know, what does everyone always say to me all the time? Yeah, I just want to target high net worth buyers. Yeah, good. That's great. You and every other business on the planet, aside from the 99-cent store, wants to target the high net worth buyers, okay? That is why it's insanely difficult to do that. But the point is, you need to have this range of pricing that I'm discussing to be able to cover all of the spots on that bell curve. Because what happens when you do that is you acquire the highest number of customers possible. And the beautiful thing about acquiring the highest number of customers possible is you can market to these folks in the future. The bell curve is not a fixed entity. Your buyers and potential buyers are going up and down that bell curve their entire lives. The one that's living in their mother's basement right now is buying their new house 2 years from now. And you got that sale. Do you want to know why you got that sale? Because you sold them a mug or a mouse pad or a calendar or a whatever, and it sat on their fridge. It could be a sticker, okay, that's on my garage fridge with all the rest of the stickers. And every time I go out to get a beer, which is an enjoyable experience for me, I look at your art, okay? Now I've moved out of my mother's basement and I'm going to go buy a house and you got that sale. And that's how it works. And I get a lot of pushback on the merch. Okay, I'm a fine artist, Patrick. I would never sell that merch, that cheap tchotchke crap. I'm not doing that. To which I respond, let me know the last time any of you went to a museum that didn't have a gift shop. I'll wait. Okay? If Van Gogh's Starry Night is on the wall, and you can also buy a Starry Night poster in the gift shop for $22 plus tax, I'm pretty sure Van Gogh's not losing any sleep over it. Technically, he's really asleep. He's dead. But you get the point, okay? You get the point. You ever been to a concert that hasn't had merch? I don't think so, okay? The Rolling Stones, take your pick, okay? Merch is very, very important in the simple lens that you acquire more customers as a result of it. So having that price range is huge. What is one of the most defeating things that happens to artists and photographers out there? You worked hours on a piece. I mean, hours. It took so much time. You're going to sell this thing for $800. And what happens? Someone's like, yeah, that's beautiful. Would you take $25 for it? Oh, you're just deflated, right? Like this person is just, I mean, it's like a troll on social media. I mean, they have just ruined your entire day. The beautiful thing is, when you have the range of pricing, it doesn't happen as much. It almost doesn't happen at all. Because people understand, they have a context of where things are in your lineup. Oh, this is $100 and under. Oh, this is $100 to $1,000. Oh, this is over $1,000. Oh, that's the $5,000 piece. And what's more, when you get those folks who don't know any better, okay, most of them are not yet people, they just don't know any better, you can be like, oh, that's fantastic. I love that you have the interest. That one costs quite a bit more, but let me show you what is in your range. And then we gently guide them to where we are in our range. Do you know how much better that is for your self-esteem? Okay, let me tell you, significantly better. It is significantly better for your self-esteem. You are going to be a happier and better functioning member of society, okay? Your significant other is like, this is awesome. Why are you in such a good mood? It's because you have the range of pricing. Very, very important. That's pricing. I'm going to send you a follow-up article on it after this whole thing's over. In addition to the pricing, the next thing I want to talk about is Instagram. Most important social network for artists and photographers. It's not even close. Secondarily, it's Facebook. Okay, have to be working on both of them. Well, Patrick, what about TikTok, or what about Pinterest, or what about SEO? Yeah, what about shiny objects that are not going to move your business anywhere and are going to put you on the road to a hobby? All right, that's what all the rest are. I don't care what anyone else says, anyone's friends, anyone. No one is selling art on any of the rest of those things, okay? They are lying to you if they're saying they are. It's nonsense. I've looked at way too much data. Aside from onesies, twosies here with weird circumstances, the two most important places that you need to be are Instagram and secondarily Facebook. And thank God for that. Okay, don't talk to me about TikTok. I'll kick you right out of this Zoom. You are lying to yourself, okay? Stupid Chinese app, communist app that is just trying to flood you with an endorphin hit. You got 10,000 views. You didn't get 10,000 views. You got 100 views from people that are never going to buy your work, okay? So when we stay focused on the only two platforms that matter, to the detriment of wasting time on any of the rest of those ones. I don't care. Just stay out of there. Stay in my lane. Facebook and Instagram and Facebook. You will end up winning. And why is Instagram the most important? What do you guys create? You create visual creations. What is Instagram? A giant visual search engine. Imagine that. Lines up pretty nicely, right? The beautiful thing is that Instagram has become, over the years, evolved into the credit check for artists and photographers. What do I mean by that? I'm going to buy something. I saw something. My neighbor had something. It's really important for me to keep up with the Jones. I'm going to go look at what he got. And what am I doing? I'm going instantaneously to Amazon. I'm going to read the reviews. Was that thing good? Is there a better one? Maybe there's a better one. Maybe I can one-up this guy because I got to keep up with the Jones. Now, we check Amazon is a way of getting credit checks, like getting the reviews of what something is, right? So you could say Consumer Reports or some of the other sites too. For artists and photographers, it's like, hey, I just saw this. I'm at your friend's house. You sold some art to your friend. I saw that. That's a great piece. Who did that? Oh, yeah, it's my buddy. It's my cousin, Mark McClanahan over there. And you should check him out. You know what they're going to do? They're going to pull out Instagram, and they're going to look for you, and they're going to look at your profile, and are they going to say, is this an artist that's doing anything? Is this an artist that's putting out content regularly? Are they on the up and up? Do they have 2 followers or 2,000 followers, right? And it's very, very important to understand, one, that Instagram offers a credit check, okay? So fundamentally, it's important just for that matter. 2, secondarily, and I should also say, like, you know, the data in this industry is so utterly, totally, completely opaque, right? Like, there's so much nonsense out there, it's mind-boggling. But there's 2 outfits that report on the super high end of the art market. One's the Hiscox Group, it's an insurance entity out of London, and the other is Art Basel teams up with UBS Payne Weber, I think. I think that's who it is. The 2 of them put out a report, and what they do is they survey every year all of the folks that are essentially buying $100,000 pieces and up. And every single solitary year, I've watched the results of those reports when it comes out, and every year it ticks up. Did you follow and or consume content from an artist on Instagram? Was Instagram influential in your buying decision? And in both cases, both of their surveys, like, those percentages are really pretty high. So it's significant in its ability to help you guys sell art. The top-end, high-end buyers are all there, okay? So that makes it very important as well. The beautiful thing about Instagram is you can reach a ton of buyers. The terrible thing about Instagram is you have to post frequently on it for years to really make a huge dent. So, yeah, 1, you got to get started. 2, you have to understand you're going to suffer in the short term because it's not easy, and you have to learn how to do it, and you have to learn how to enjoy it and get good at it. And we can talk about that in depth. I have a ton of teaching on Instagram. But the beautiful thing that exists currently on Instagram, and I love this. Okay, we're going to have to do a little social media history lesson. But Facebook emerged. Facebook pretty much became a monopoly. Okay, power was unchecked. Then a new rising competitor came along, and Facebook is like, we can't have any competition. It was Instagram. We're going to go buy those folks. So they bought them. Okay, great. Now Facebook's even more powerful. It's Facebook and Instagram. I'm streaming on their platform when I'm saying this, so I get banned. You guys will know why. Zuckerberg kicks my door, and you'll know why. So now they own these 2 platforms. So the playbook was, we are a monopoly. If any competitors come along, we're just going to buy them. Okay. Snapchat emerges. Snapchat starts taking all of these young kids away from Facebook and Instagram. They're like, all right, what does the playbook say to do in this situation? Let me see the playbook. Market says that we have a competitor, go and buy it. All right, somebody go and buy Snapchat. So they go and try and buy Snapchat. Snapchat says pound sand. Mark's like, okay, what does the playbook say now? We don't know. He goes, all right, we're just going to copy them verbatim. And so Snapchat had these things called stories that disappeared after 24 hours, and Facebook copied them verbatim. So, okay, now Snapchat peters out. I mean, who's using that? I don't know. It's some kids, whatever. It's whatever. I don't want to talk about it. The next one came along. This time it was TikTok. And Mark Zuckerberg went right back to the playbook. He's like, okay, this is awesome. TikTok is starting to steal a bunch of our users. It's competition. What should I do? Let's go try and buy them. He goes and tries and buy them again. They tell him no. He said, my wife is Chinese. Let me buy you. They still said no. So the next thing they do is they're like, okay, what does the playbook say next? Copy them verbatim. And so that's what they did. And by the way, the other social players were watching, and now YouTube watched, and they're like, okay, let's copy them verbatim. So what did TikTok have? these short form little videos that were 120 seconds or less and were very compelling cell phone style video size. They copied that feature verbatim and called it Instagram Reels. YouTube saw that, copied that feature verbatim, called it YouTube Shorts. I could cycle through the 3 views of those 3 different products, and you could almost not tell the difference. They even put the buttons in the same place as copycats. Anyway, why it was a brilliant thing, TikTok coming along, is it destroyed what has been up to that point in time in the social contract. What is a social contract? What do I mean by that? Hey, art store friends, work really hard on my platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and post a bunch of content. When you do, people will follow you and become fans. After you earn those followers and those fans, some small portion of what you create will be shown to those followers and fans for free. Early on in the days, it was like 90%. Recently, it's like 2 to 5%. Tiny, almost nothing, right? So that is what the social contract was. TikTok, God bless them, despite the fact that don't like the platform and think it's evil, has been still siphoning off users from Instagram at an alarming rate. It's all the younger kids and the people that are chasing likes that are not real and chasing views that are not real. It's a worthless platform. Anyway, so what they've done is they've torn up the social contract. So now where we are is we're in a scenario where you can get onto Instagram and you can have 2 followers, your significant other and your mother, okay? She likes and comments on everything. God bless you. Thank you, Mom. You can create content in the form of an Instagram Reel. And an Instagram Reel can potentially, if it's good, be seen by hundreds, by thousands, by even millions. In which case, you organically marketing without leaving your house, showing off your creations, understanding the platform, can get free reach. It used to be you didn't get that. And it used to be you had to pay a ton of money in terms of Facebook and Instagram ads to get that attention. Now you can do that without leaving your house. And that's an incredible, incredible thing. So it represents a huge, huge opportunity. And so that's where we stand right now as it sits in 2023. I believe Instagram is the most amazing platform that exists that can bring you guys buyers, bring you guys fans, bring you guys email addresses, and yes, sell your art with photography, but you have to get good at marketing it. You have to understand how to post. You have to work on your posting frequency, and you have to learn to love it. Yeah. And very few people learn to love it, don't they? Very, very few learn to love it. Most of you don't want to do any of it at all, right? Nope. We don't like our marketing, that's for sure. You know, one of the things that I taught on recently, and I have a podcast and it's good, and I want you guys to subscribe to it. And it's anywhere you find a podcast. You just have to search Art Marketing Podcast. If you don't know how to find a podcast, then maybe we'll table that discussion for now. Anyway, in this, I've released an episode just recently. It's number 55 on here. Smart artists don't run ads. Instead, they do this. And I introduced this concept called the loop, okay? The loop is extremely powerful technique or tactic. And as I was just talking through things and talking about Instagram and how powerful Instagram is and how amazing Instagram is, like, you know, I'm 44 and I had a front row seat growing up for when the world changed, right? When the world flattened, when the gatekeepers got obliterated, when the business models, exploitative though they may have been, got disintermediated, when there were no more gatekeepers that you had to go through. And it took a little while longer for the art industry to come around to that, I think, than, you know, everyone else with what was possible on social media. But, you know, I talk about Instagram and I talk about Facebook and how powerful and how amazing they are. Do you remember what it was like before that? You were geographically limited to where you were. It was pretty damn hard to reach the world back then. If you wanted to, you had to spend a ton of money on ads. Now, the fact that you can leverage this thing and get a ton of attention really, really easily, get your art, get your photography in front of worldwide eyes, not that you care about the world, you want, you know, domestic business, but it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. Hence the loop. What is the loop? The loop is, instead of spending money on ads, on Facebook or Meta or Google or in your local little paper or on the radio or anywhere else, you do this. You have in your lineup either merch or prints. Fantastic. You offer one of those merches, one piece of merch or the print as a giveaway. Hey guys, I'm going to give away such and such. To enter, put your email address here, okay? They put their email address in. You gather a number of email addresses. After some period of time, 5 days, 7 days, you name a winner, you email the winner, congratulations, I'm going to ship you the thing. To everyone else, you say, hey guys, I don't ever win either. As a way of saying thanks for entering, I'm going to go ahead and take 15% off such and such store-wide, my prints, my commissions, my originals. For the next 48 hours, here's the coupon code, right? So you have an incentive to capture people's email addresses with the thing that you're going to give away. And then you have a sale on the back end of it for everyone that just entered. That's the loop. And it is so insanely effective. It's crazy to me. And when you realize that every one of you can do it, every one of you can do it inexpensively, every one of you can just contemplate the cost of shipping that print, shipping that merch, shipping that small original is no different than just the cost of running an ad, and all of you have the ability to advertise. So I talked about that in depth in this podcast episode. Where it gets interesting, and then we'll get into the Q&A, is every single solitary one of you on here has a attention problem, a marketing problem. Most of you just started. Most of you don't have a big email list. Most of you have very few followers on social media. So there's that whole chicken and the egg situation. You've got work that you want to sell. You want to market it out there. You want to show it to people. The problem is that when you go to do that, you have your significant other and your mother. Those are the two people that follow you, okay? That's not going to get the job done, right? Well, with everything that we've just learned and running the loop, you can go and find out what your niche is, and you can find out an account on Instagram that has a ton of followers, or an account on Facebook that has a ton of fans, or a Facebook group that has thousands of members, or somebody that has a huge podcast, or somebody that has a huge YouTube channel, any of the above. But you go to somebody that has a ton of attention already, and you say, hey, your audience probably would love the work that I create. Tell you what, why don't we do a giveaway? Here's this print. Here's what it normally costs. You can give this thing away to your audience however you see fit. Would that be something you're interested in? And then you shut up and you see what happens. And not everyone says yes. So maybe you contact 10 or 15 people and maybe 3 say yes. And then you guys with no email list, very small social following, now have your work in front of an Instagram account that has 450,000 followers. What happens in a scenario like that? Just because you spent the money on a print giveaway, $150, maybe less, that's a pretty staggering and insane thing to be able to do. So the reason I want you to subscribe to the podcast is in the first episode, I explained the concept of the loop, and you should listen to that in depth. And then on the next one, I'm going to explain how to find folks that you can potentially engage in this activity. But it is a big, big deal, and it is a fantastic way, like I said, especially when you're just getting started, to really like kick things off. And Zainab, hold on. Zainab was in the chat asking what the book was. This is the book. It's called Don't Be a Starving Artist by Weiland. Absolutely amazing book. Again, the rub is he doesn't sell it on Amazon. Somebody told me it's a free audiobook now, but I think he donates the proceeds to charity. But this thing is, it's short, it's hard hitting, and if you're going to take advice from an artist, a guy that's probably the best seller in the United States, is not a bad one to take it from. So there's what the book is. But enough of me ranting. We can open it up, crack it up to the Q&A. How does it work? If you're one of the brave ones that has your camera on and you have a question, all you have to do is raise your hand. I'll see that. I can unmute you, and I can bring you in. For everyone else, at the bottom of the Zoom window, there's this little smiley face, and it says reactions. If you click on that, there is a way that you can raise your hand digitally speaking, okay? And then you can raise your hand digitally speaking. That lets me know, hey, this person's got a question, and I can unmute you. If you don't want to turn your camera on, you don't have to turn your camera on, okay? I have a face for radio. If this wasn't my job, you would have no idea what I look like. And then you can also throw questions in the chat. I'll deal with those. I like to prioritize the person questions first. And then if you're one of the ones that's watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, I can see your comments, your questions, so you guys can leave them too. And it usually just takes one brave folk to kick us off. Nate, that's what I'm talking about. I like it. I appreciate it. I'm going to unmute you. Nate, you have to hit the mic icon.
Got it?
Gotcha.
Okay. I've got about 1,200 followers on my Instagram.
Good work.
I've done nothing to exploit that.
Yes.
I'm just starting to develop the mailing list. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of names from prior businesses that I've been in.
Sure.
But I've been asking the how-to question on Google. How can I get followers to give me their addresses? Have advice about that, and more than just each one at a time. Is there any systematic way to do that?
Yeah, so the loop that I just described, that podcast episode that I just described, goes into detail one of the most effective ways to do that, which is with print giveaways to incentivize those followers to give you an email address as a chance to win the print, right?
I got that, and I actually have a print, and I've made notes on that. Tell me again the podcast. How do I?
Yeah, so the way podcasts work, which is kind of lame if you don't listen to podcasts, is you have to have an application to listen to them, right? Now, if everyone has Apple, if you have an Apple device, then Apple Podcasts is an app that you have by default, and then you just go in and you search and you just type Art Marketing Podcast, look for that little orange logo, and you'll be able to find it that way.
Art Marketing, okay.
Yeah, Art Marketing Podcast. But I would listen to that one in depth. It's just an absolutely fantastic way to get the word out, right? Like, you guys are all solopreneurs, right? But you're also all businesses. You're all trying to grow a business. And, I don't know a lot of businesses in the world that don't have some sort of advertising expense, just part of the deal. And when you realize that, like, okay, it costs me, if I have merch in my lineup and if I have prints in my lineup, it's going to cost me anywhere from 25 to 75 to 100 to 125 to ship something to a winner, right? Each time I do that, I'm going to gather anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 500 to 1,000 emails. Depends on who you are and what your niche is and what your scenario is. Then, after the fact, I'm going to offer a sale to everyone that entered and didn't win and potentially capture the revenue back from that print giveaway in the first place. And then you also end up having a bunch of conversations, because a lot of people, like the common question I get is like, well, Patrick, I've got my list of collectors and people that have purchased from me before. Why would I want to send them the opportunity to enter to win? I want them to come back and purchase again. No, you want to start a conversation, right? Those people are busy. They have lives. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't really care to win this thing, but I wonder what Nate was up to. And then the next thing you know, you get an order for a commission. Or next thing you know, they're like, hey, I got this new space in my vacation house. My wife and I have been talking about it. It's 24 by 36. What do you have, right? Like, it's a fantastically powerful thing. The rub on it is artists and photographers are their own worst enemies, okay? Naturally terrible at marketing, all right? Lacking self-confidence, okay? Easily dissuaded. So you need to look at it as a game of archery, okay? And I mean, who does archery anymore? But everyone gets the analogy. You can't just fire one arrow. Your odds of hitting the bullseye for firing one arrow is not good, right? So you got to fire 10 arrows. So you got to do them all the time. If I was left on my own devices, now granted, not an artist per se, more of a marketer, I would be running 1 or 2 a week, every single solitary week, 50 weeks a year. And there is no end to the number of circumstances in which you can execute this loop. It's not just a digital activity. Like, you could be driving around, okay, with a QR code and a piece of art on the back of your window, right? Scan this to win, okay? You could have your art up in a doctor's office, up in a cafe, up in a restaurant, up at anywhere with a little placard underneath it that says, scan this QR code, enter to win. You could be doing an in-person fair show, and you could have the fishbowl out and say, hey, put your email address in to win, right? It's the whole thing. It's not a new technique or tactic. It's certainly not anything that I've developed. It's something that's been working for 100 plus years. So it's like, let's take that lesson in business, let's bolt it into ours and make it happen, right? So subscribe to the podcast. On the next one, I'm going to teach you how to find, big influencers in your niche, because that's really what everyone's looking for, right? And I should say, in classic fashion, one of the things that we've been doing recently as a business is I get all this flack all the time, like, and I hate these comments on social media, but we advertise a ton, so inevitably they're going to come. Show me the really successful artist. We're the artists that you've made into millionaires, right? And I hate those comments because I hate the premise. Like, we don't create successful artists and photographers. We take successful artists and photographers and make them better. There's no one that creates them out of thin air. Anyway, in theory, it's me. So I want to tell a story. So Meg here, okay? And she's been with us for a long time. Midwestern painter, very talented. I think she's been with us for 7 years. She just passed over the $1 million mark in sales, okay? Pretty impressive, all directly from her website. She has an incredible story. What's interesting is that even if you're someone at Meg's level, and I don't think, I don't think she has more than like 10,000 followers on Instagram. So it's not like she has like a huge following. Anyway, whatever. She's become known as like the Midwestern gal, right? And, went to a prominent school there, got a licensing deal there a number of years back. And then recently, Meg, and I'm going to put this link into the chat. This is also on the podcast too, by the way, but sometimes people like watching the video better. So I threw the link in the chat. I'll email it to you guys after the fact too. But anyway, track with me just for a second on this story. So Jason Sudeikis, this guy who's in this hit show called Ted Lasso. I mean, it's won so many Emmys, they had to like rent a U-Haul truck to get all the Emmys back. It's a big show on Apple TV. Anyway, it's about soccer. He's a Midwestern guy. There's some Midwestern charity that's a good buddy of his. And so this good buddy was like, Jason, I want you to do something for this charity. So they called Meg and they're like, hey, Meg, will you paint Ted Lasso for us? And we're going to have him sign it and auction it off to charity, right? So, okay, great. Meg did that. She got to meet him. Awesome. He signed the whole thing. Off it went to charity. So Meg was then able to sell prints. And she thought selling the prints would be a huge hit, but it didn't really work with her list. They weren't really selling like hotcakes. I think she sold like one or two. Okay. So what did she do? She went and made a mug, right? A piece of merch, exactly like I talked about in the whole lineup. And it's like a simple mug like this with his face on it, which is essentially just a painting. And then it says believe on it, right? And then we got to just listen to this in her own words, because what she did is she ran the curator strategy with it, okay? She ran the curator strategy with it, and she went and found, I might as well just, whatever, I'll shut up.
That you were really pushing at the beginning of this year was, smaller like merch items, things that people can impulse purchase to pull new customers in. And something really interesting is that I did the Ted Lasso piece like last December.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that piece. It was on my website. It was all there. I met Jason Sudeikis. Like we did the whole thing.
Is he cool, by the way?
And literally, yes, very nice.
Yeah.
I met him for like, 5 total minutes. So it's not like we're best friends, but, but we, did all that thing. And you would think like, certainly everything sold after that, like nothing, like it was totally quiet. Then as the season 3 and the finale started to like kick up a few months ago, I created a mug like with that image on it and just the word believe. And I did like a cool video of it. And I did a giveaway with a curator who had like 250,000 followers. And I shit you not, I sold so many mugs that my bank called me because they thought it was fraud. Like, because there were so many charges coming through from art storefronts.
Oh my gosh.
Or the
Anyway, she's got a really cool story, and you can listen to it. I'll send it to you. But do you know what that was? That was just exactly what I'm saying. It was the loop, right? She went to this account and she was like, hey, you're a huge fan of Ted Lasso. I've created this Ted Lasso thing. Do you want to give it away to your audience? And now she's acquired a couple, 3,000 or 4,000 customers that she now has the email address on, Nate, that she can now email going forward. And that's the ball game, right? And that was like something from nothing. So you find the folks that have these big accounts that dovetail with whatever your subject matter material is. Okay, and I'm going to teach this on the next podcast episode in depth. So if it sounds sort of nebulous, I'll teach how you go about it. And it just comes down to archery at that point in time. Like you'll try it a couple of times and you'll fail on some, but if you find a couple of good ones that hit, like you can instantaneously go from like 0 to 30 miles an hour in your business in like 6 months. It's an amazing thing.
As a beer drinker, I suggest you use darts instead of archery.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Darts is, and I'm Irish. So of course I should be using darts. I don't know why I didn't, but yeah, archery is just what came out. But agreed. Any follow-ups, Nate?
Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. Who else, guys? There was another hand up, and then it went down. That's right, because I was talking too doggone long. Perry, that looks like California in the background. Are you waking up extremely wet this morning? I mean, it rained 24 hours straight for me. I'm in Southern California too. I mean, 24 hours straight. Yep, Joan, you're up next. Go ahead. You need to unmute, Joan. Just mic icon, bottom left-hand corner. Gotcha.
I'm just wondering, what's the incentive for the other website, use the word curator, to have you do the giveaway on their site? Is
Great
it just
question. Great question.
Yeah.
So couple of different ways to go about it. And again, in the next podcast episode, I'm going to go super in depth in this and all the tradecraft. But the idea is that these folks are creating content for their audience on a regular basis, which is no easy task. Okay. You have a piece of art that you are now giving to that person and saying, you give this away to your audience however you see fit. Right. And so, one, you want to start the conversation with those folks. Right. Two, ideally, you want to get in a scenario where you can get all their get some email addresses out of it too, right? So they would come back to a landing page. So I'm going to teach about the mechanics going forward, but the whole idea is you open up the conversation, and the incentive for them is like, oh wow, this is a really cool thing to be able to give to my audience. That would be super, super fun. Okay, let me just go and do that, right? So that's the incentive. And on some accounts, they don't want to do anything for you. Meaning, yeah, that's great. I'll give it away. And you have to be smart enough to say, no problem. That's awesome. And then you know what happens? They give it away. They post on the various different social media sites. And then you are very engaged in those comments. And then after the fact, they go, oh, this was so awesome with so-and-so. Here's a link to their site. Go check them out. Right. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes they let you go through the whole giveaway. And really it comes down to like relationships. Right. And what I found with my customers, especially my customers I've really, really pushed and hammered to do this, is you get one over the line, right, with someone that has a big account, and you make sure it's a pleasurable experience for the person that owns the account, i.e. don't be a pain in the ass with demands. And the next thing you know, you can go back to the well again and again and again. And very few people understand how insanely powerful this is, because the alternative is giving the money to Meta. Meta is the company that now owns Facebook and Instagram. They changed their name. Really confusing. Twitter changed its name to X. I mean, these people are just constantly moving the goalposts. Anyway, the ads, the alternative, which is running ads, is very expensive. So this is like a very smart hack on how you can essentially, do ads. And the crazy thing about it is why I love this world that we live in is there are huge accounts for every type of niche imaginable on the planet, right? Like for every single solitary one on the planet. Like let's say that those are plant drawings behind you for every single solitary type of plant, right? Like if it's a Japanese maple, there's probably 6 different big accounts per Japanese maple, right? Like here's the blood good one. Everyone loves that one. There's a huge account for that. So you can drill in on a niche level like crazy, crazy, crazy deep. And so it's a fascinating, fascinating time to be alive. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to more of this.
Yes, good. It's a fantastic way to grow a niche, grow an audience. And like I said, I would be doing it all the time. If it was me, I would be doing it all the time. All right. Who else, guys? Questions, comments, concerns? Can be anything about anything. Oh yeah, Sam's back. Okay. I remember you had your hand up earlier. Sorry, I went long-winded, Sam. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, this might be related to the previous subjects, but how on earth would you approach that other curator, the
Yeah.
in order to forge that relationship? Because
Yeah. So one, you have to do a little homework, right? So I'm going to talk about this in the next episode as I realize everyone needs the tactical recipe. You get a spreadsheet going, you figure out the various different things. And again, ideally it's on Instagram. And the reason ideally it's on Instagram, because Instagram is the giant visual search engine. Instagram is the best platform for artists and photographers. And what will end up happening is it's nice for them to be able to just mention you in the post, right? And then everyone just clicks and comes and sees your Instagram account. Anyway, so
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's Instagram though. It can be any of the above,
Mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
you do a little
Mhm.
homework and you get their email. It could be, let me just say that if it's Instagram, it could be send them a DM. If they've got a website, it could be find the inquiries email and send them an email. If it's a Facebook group, you email the moderator directly, right? You do a little homework. If it's Twitter, you can send them a direct message. If it's YouTube, you can send them a message, or you can leave them a comment. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to go about it. And the thing that's really, really hard for you guys, and I know this because I have 10,000 customers and I'm constantly trying to get them to do it, is it's hard to understand the numbers game, right? Because you might contact 10 and only hear back from 2. and you might only get one over the line. And that fear of rejection and everything else is terrifying, right? It's like if I had it to do all over again, I would put every artist on like a 3-month seminar of cold calling where you had to do 50 dials a day, because then you just inert yourself to any rejection or fear of rejection or worry about it, right? Because it's a numbers game. But yeah, you get the long and the short is you get creative. You get creative.
All right then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the idea piqued your interest enough? You're thinking about it?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Definitely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and of course, like you mentioned, I'm not, as an artist, I'm my own worst enemy in that I'm
100%.
terrible with marketing.
100%. Yeah. And trust me, you're in good company. Almost all are. It is like such a rare unicorn to find an artist that is actually like competent in their craft and is not just good at marketing, but enjoys it. Those are unicorns. All the rest of you hate it, suffer. You need to suffer. You need to understand that you're going to suffer. You need to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to suffer. And really, at the end of the day, you know, the reason we have the business model that we do now is we learned the hard way that trying to get artists to market themselves is kind of like publishing a workout. Like, hey guys, here's the workout. Go do the workout. Let me tell you how many people go and do the workout. Unless you're the trainer, yelling at them, encouraging them, sending text messages, keeping them accountable, okay, having a group that appears to suffer through with them, none of it ever gets done. None of it ever gets done. So that's what we are at the end of the day. We are a giant trainer that just screams and yells and encourages and bribes and cajoles and encourages and all the rest. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Otherwise, all artists, all photographers treat their treat their marketing like a New Year's resolution, right? This is going to be my year. I'm really going to take my marketing seriously. It's going to be great. And it's like you go to the gym when you sign up January, 4 days a week. January was a great month. You really did well. February rolls around and you haven't been once. Then it's done. Rinse and repeat. And the years just go by and by and by. You got to fix the real problem, right? Cool. Thanks, Sam. Who else guys questions? All right, CJ's up. Go ahead, CJ.
I guess I need to unmute.
You do.
Probably a dumb question, but how do you acquire curators? Is that
You just
your
search.
followers?
You just search. You search on there's so again we called it the curator strategy because originally when I taught my customers to do this, which was like 4 years ago, I recommended all of them do it on Instagram. I've come to realize that it's just someone that has a big following. That's it. So it can literally be anywhere. So there's not really like one good name to call them. Like it could be somebody with a big YouTube channel. It could be somebody that has a podcast. It could be somebody that is the moderator of a Facebook group. It could be somebody that has a ton of followers on Nextdoor. Okay. It could be somebody in the real world that's a lecturer or a teacher or a band. Like it could literally be anywhere. It's just about taking that loop, the nuts and bolts of that loop, and then bolting it into that individual scenario, right? I mean, you could do it in friends that have stores. You could do it if your friend has a restaurant. Like there's no end in sight to the number of places that you can do it, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Works well. And I appreciate the art branding that you're doing here with your camera too. So always got to be on it. Always got to be on it.
So a portrait's better than the real thing.
Yeah, all good. All good.
Anyway. All right.
Thanks, CJ. Yeah, it's funny, right? Because right before I was recording that episode, the last one, I come home and I have the cameras in front of my house like most of us do these days, and I see somebody walks up to the front door and does like a little door hanger, right? And then walks off. And I go and get it, and it's from like 2 real estate agents in my town. And what are they doing? They're doing a giveaway on a SUP. A SUP is a stand-up paddleboard because I live very close to the ocean. They're like, do such and such to enter to win a SUP. And I'm like, oldest technique in the book, and everyone's doing it because it works, right? So contemplate that context. Okay. Let's say where you live, there is a new home development that's going in. You pay some kids on rollerblades to go ahead and take those door hangers and put them on every single solitary door in that neighborhood and say, welcome to the neighborhood. I know you need some art on those bare walls. Scan the QR code below to enter to win a free print, right? Like the loop works wherever. It doesn't matter. It is only limited by your creativity. That's it. And it's just a great way to advertise, to get the word out. But who else, guys? Questions, comments, concerns? I should say I will be emailing this entire presentation to all of you because I've recorded it, as well as any links that I might have mentioned. I want you to listen to that Meg episode. It's really, really good, this one. And it's on the blog, too. You can watch it. What was cool is that in both of these, in Meg's and then this other one I'll show you, I essentially interview her for an hour, so get into this, that, and the other questions that I find interesting. And then we cracked it right open to Q&A in the second video. Where's the doggone second video? No, not that one. Yeah, here. And so on this one, like a bunch of people were just able to ask her questions. And
Yeah, it's only 4 months.
She was answering them directly. And then the one I did before this, and I've got a bunch more of these coming up, which is also why I'm telling you about it. The one I did before this is with my buddy Jonah. This kid's amazing. He's 29 years old. He's selling $100,000 a month of his art. Absolutely staggering photographer. He's got a really interesting story. So did the same thing. Interview with Jonah. After the interview, opened it up to Q&A, and he answered everybody's questions live, which was totally awesome. So great pieces of content that you guys should, and totally free, consume them. They're on the podcast too, or you can, like I said, if you prefer to watch them, you can watch them. But I've noticed that there's something amazing, there's something amazing when you hear it from actual artists that are, well over the $1 million mark, and some of the techniques and tactics that they do, how they negotiate, right? Do they run sales, how they approach their email marketing, what's their approach to social and how they contemplate it, mindset, all the kinds of things. Work-life balance, is that really a thing? I don't know. All right, what else, guys? Questions, comments, any finals before we wrap up? Yep, Joan, I got you, don't worry. Go ahead.
Okay, one more question. I'm
Please.
sure you're asked this a lot. Is there a general sense of how much time you minimally need to put into marketing in order to see some results?
Yeah.
And
awesome question. And you're right. I get it all the time. It's less, so there's two ways to answer the question. One, it's a totally bogus question because the premise is flawed. And the premise is that there's some sort of magical formula that works for everybody. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
have I learned a lesson the hard way on this one over the years. I've tried so many different, first of all, my wife has a PhD in statistics, okay? So I could ask her all the various different ways to calculate it, and I have. But where my mind goes is okay, I want to analyze all of my customers' businesses because I have access to everything. Number of social media followers, email list, right? How many times a year they run a sale, how active they are in marketing, and I'm going to be able to emerge with some sort of formula, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's so many variables in the equation that it's crazy. Who you are, what your subject matter material is, what size following you have, what individual unique geographic things do you have at your disposal that work for you, you're doing fairs. There's just so many variables in the equation. So anyone that tells you under any circumstances that there's some kind of formula or magical this or magical that, run like hell in the opposite direction because they're snake oil salesmen. Okay, the real answer to the question, it's less about how many hours a week you have to throw at it, and it's more about mentally writing the check of doing it 50 weeks a year for 2 or 3 years. That's what it is. You only have 3 hours a week to throw at me, Joan? Fine. Give me 3 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, and watch what happens. You know what happens? Progress. You know what will happen when you do that? Your emotional gas tank will get filled up with some of the wins that you bank along the way, and they're small at first, but guess what? We're emotional human beings. Sometimes all it takes is a magazine contacting you or someone signing up for a commission or you sell one original. And the next thing you know, I blink and all of a sudden I'm like, Joan, you gave me 10 hours last week. You didn't tell me you had 10 hours. Where did that come from? And it's like the emotional uplifting portion of being an entrepreneur. That's where it came from, right? So less about magical formula of hours, more about doing it consistently. No one does it consistently. No one.
Yeah, I think I can understand. It's the idea of just kind of keeping it moving too.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be like, like a fast motorboat, just
Mm.
moving.
Yes.
Just keep it moving.
Exactly right.
And it starts to build its own momentum.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean? But if you just stop and then try to rush and then stop, that's not as consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of boring, right? Because it's obvious. And everyone instinctively knows that it's true. And we all wish there was a shortcut, but turns out I've been doing this for a long time. There's no shortcuts. I tried them all. None of them work. It's just consistency. That's it. And that's also like we have morphed more into a company that are cheerleaders and supporters and accountability people and mild harassment people and sometimes bribery people, because that's what it takes to keep everyone on the road and going. Like, it's a combination of carrot and stick all year long, all these various different reasons. And if we can get our customers to crash through those quitting points of the early years when it's miserable and you're having to learn a new thing and you're pulling your hair out of your head and all of that, like, you reach a point where you have that momentum and it just keeps going. And then you're like, this is so cool. I'm making sales. I can see it. But it helps when you're going through it with like a group of your peers, that are all doing the same thing, that are all at the same level. And, you're seeing the same faces week in, week out, and everyone's trying to get there together. It's pretty encouraging, actually.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, CJ, go ahead.
Ever have any trolling problems?
Daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
So
It's even worse for you guys too, because some of the when I say you guys, women, because men are just so damn creepy. But yeah, you learn. First of all, I have like multiple episodes on this where I talk about this in depth, and yet,
oh, cool.
and I've run probably over $50 million worth of Facebook ads now, like at this point in time in my career. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that like the sheer number of trolls I have been exposed to in my career is staggering. Okay, is staggering. When you get to the level that I get to, you realize you had so many reps and sets with it that we're human beings, right? Like, we don't do well with criticism, and these negative comments can be so difficult, and it's very easy to let them get under your skin, right? But you realize when you've been doing it after a while, we think that negative comment is somehow a reflection. That's a reflection upon something that we've done, or it's a reflection of artwork that we've created, or something that we said, or who we are as a person. But it's not. It's a mirror.
Nature of the beast.
It's a mirror. It's a window. It's a window into who they are as a person, and how unfulfilled and how miserable and how bad of a day that they're having. And when you realize that, it really helps you approach it with empathy. And what I've noticed too is like, it doesn't happen in the real world. It only happens on social media when they can hide behind these various different things. Like, we don't live in a place that is that deplorable and is that miserable and people are just unkind, because you don't experience that in the real world, right? That being said, every once in a while it still gets under my skin, and it's very, very difficult to guard against that. So, but I get it on a regular basis. I mean, the number of things that I have been called, CJ, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. So you just ban them and move on, though. You just ban and move on.
Oh, cool. Off switch. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. Any finals, guys, before we wrap it up? Sam's really showing off some of his art. He's taking one out of your playbook. There we go, Sam. That's you and the start of your marketing journey, brother. You're giving it a shot, right? You're giving it a shot. Tell us about it, Sam. Sam's raised his hand again. He wants to talk about it.
Okay. Well, part of my problem is that a lot of my work is very personal, and this one I did for my toddler nephew, actually.
Is it like a Mayan Incan vibe thing, right?
Oh, very, very much Inca. As you can see, he's a toddler. He likes the moon, so inexplicably I did this one instead of something more simplistic. So yeah.
Very cool.
yeah, when it's CC, when it's, I'm sure you know that when you really put a lot of yourself into something, you just become very touchy about it when somebody,
Yes, absolutely. It's
yeah,
hard. It's hard. It's brutal. It like, you know, again, I go back to like how long I've been doing it. And every once in a while, it'll still get under my skin, you know.
yeah,
Especially Nate. After I've had a few of those aforementioned beers, I turn into a pugilist, and I oftentimes now, when it gets me, and thanks for showing off the work, Sam. When it gets me nowadays, sometimes what I'll do is just because it's cathartic, I'll hammer out a response of pure vitriol back over the net, and then right before I hit send, I just delete the whole thing and ban it. I feel a little bit better about myself. So that's kind of what I've been doing recently to get through it. But I appreciate all of you guys for sticking on. I hope you learned something. I hope you have some takeaways that can help you in your business. Should you want to find out more about what we do, the next steps for us is to get a demo. The demo is the test drive. It's a Zoom session by our outreach team. They'll walk you through all the bells, the whistles, the plans, what it costs, all of those things. And how can you do that? There's buttons literally all over our website on every email. I mean, Lord knows we're relentless. I mean, how much do I email you? It's out of control. So you can click any of the buttons in any of those, and you know, one of our fine folks will call you. But start getting ready, you guys. Q4 is coming. I don't want you guys to wake up like the day before Thanksgiving and be like, oh gosh, I gotta run a sale. Oh, actually, I only have one fan on Instagram and my mother on my email list. That's not going to do it. So we want to be ready. But I appreciate all of you guys, and have a great rest of your day.